Captain America's stories have always been about identity, what Captain America represents. Because Captain America isn't a person, it's not Steve Rogers, it's not Jeffrey Mace, and it's not Bucky Barnes. It's an identity, and some of the best Captain America stories explore what it means to have that identity, not only to the person behind the shield, but to the world as a whole. They even explore what happens when that symbol is perverted and transformed into something that it should never be. And these are the themes that Falcon and the Winter Soldier adapts nearly perfectly. Exploring the human aspects behind these heroes, the people behind the mask, and what their identity is to them, which is, in my opinion, how Falcon and the Winter Soldier manages to be one of the most human MCU stories. Falcon and the Winter Soldier delves into the complexity of identity and what it means to be a hero. Each character in the show embodies a type of struggle with their identity. Their stories are real, and it feels tangible and compelling. We get to see Sam's real life when he's not a towering hero, his grounded life with his family. Bucky's life as he deals with the mass trauma and guilt for what he's done in his past life as the Winter Soldier. John Walker's struggle as a man trying to live up to a legend. The story pushes and transforms each character's views on their own identity. Some come to understand who they're meant to be, some come to find a new identity, and some crack under the pressure that comes with their identity. John Walker is the epitome of a misguided hero. He is complex and compelling. While his actions were unforgivable, his reasoning and his downfall is understandable, layered, and even relatable. While obviously not to the same scale as you and me, his flaws are still human. He's just a man trying to do what he believes is right, trying to help people, but crumbling under the pressure and expectations that come with the identity thrust upon him, which then turns him into a horrible person. He became Captain America to make up for his past sins, to fight the good fight, and to do the right thing, yet no matter how good John's intentions are, it's never enough. Even if he tries to do what people want him to do, what he was trained to do, it's not enough.
I only ever did what you asked of me, what you told me to be and trained me to do, and I did it. And I did it well.
Even in real life, this idea is reflected with people hating this character, calling him racist or hating him for no other reason than the fact that he's not Steve Rogers. Yet, in the story, he saved Bucky and Sam, he freed Bucky from prison, and he tried his best always to reach out and help. But over and over again, Bucky and Sam refused to help him. Not because he was necessarily a dick to them, but because he wasn't Steve Rogers, because he wasn't the symbol they expected him to be. All John ever wanted was to become more than John Walker, to be Captain America. And because of that, he's not a villain. Because to me, having high expectations of yourself isn't evil. Wanting to do more, wanting to be more is not evil. In fact, it's the opposite. It's understandable, it's relatable. I can understand why this man, who has done so much wrong in life, wants a chance to do real good. In fact, I don't see the difference between most superheroes and John Walker in this regard. John Walker, like many other heroes, is fueled by making sure that what he experienced happens to nobody else. That's the reason he takes a serum. When he's reminded of his failures, he takes a serum so he can stop people from feeling what he felt on that day.
We both know that the things that we had to do in Afghanistan to be awarded those medals felt a long way from being right. Being Cap's the first time I've had the chance to do something that actually feels right.
So how is that different to, say, Spider-Man, who wants to stop others from experiencing what he felt with Uncle Ben? And that's why, in my mind, in this regard, John Walker is simply no different. His story is something that nearly anyone can relate to. While, again, not to the same scale, we've all had those moments where we lose ourselves in a journey to become better, looking at what we don't have rather than what we have in front of us.
You already have 3 medals of honor. You consistently make the right decisions in the heat of battle.
Yep.
And in the end, that is what John Walker is. At his very core, like most of us, he wants to live up to this greater idea of himself. He wants to become a better version of himself. But it's within that search to become a better being where he loses himself. He cracks under the pressure that not only he created, but the world created for him, thrusting on expectations.
Listen, this suit comes with expectations, bro.
Expecting him to become something that either he doesn't want to be or simply can't be. And that is why he's not a villain. Because in the end, nothing about John Walker is inherently evil. He has good intentions, but those intentions and that being was destroyed and dismantled by expectations forced upon him by others. The character of John Walker is a deep look on societal pressures and how they can warp and force somebody to become something they're not. Just like in real life, the expectations to do things can make you feel worse. The pressure can make you go down a dark road and become something you're not. In the end, while John's actions were horrible and evil, in the end, I see John Walker more as the victim of an identity that the government and society pushed expectations on, rather than an inherent villain. A character who does good, but deep down below that good is a darkness that stirs, and every so often that darkness comes out. And it's that balance between hero and anti-hero that makes John Walker so compelling to me. Because with John Walker being the most human hero in this story, it is only fair that his personality reflect that, him being a character of gray areas and moral ambiguity rather than one defined by black and white standards. Sam's journey in the show mirrors Walker's journey. While Walker's journey is a descent into badness as he crumbles under an identity given to him, Sam's journey is a triumphant story into finding who he is as he comes to accept and understand the responsibilities and the identity given to him by Steve Rogers, both as a simple man and as a hero. Sam finds the Shield's legacy to be greater than him. He doesn't feel like he is the man who can put things right to prove something to not only himself, but to the world.
The world's broken. Everybody's just looking for somebody to fix it.
We see more of Sam's identity, who he is behind the suit. We get to see him deal with real life, real struggles, and his struggles as a human mirrors his struggles as a hero and the mantle that he holds. He struggles with the history of his life, the boat, the shield. It's all connected. All of it represents the reluctance to change the status of Sam's history and his reluctance to take on the future. Because to Sam Wilson, Captain America will always be Steve Rogers, and his boat will always be his family's. No matter the cost, Sam will never want to sell the boat because it was his history, and he didn't want to cast it away. And the shield wasn't a part of him. It wasn't his. It never could be. He doesn't understand that the shield's history is also a part of his history, whether he likes it or not. And to him, the meaning of these identities, these statuses, these symbols are unchangeable. They cannot represent anything else or anything more.
How does it feel? Like it's someone else's.
The idea of an unchangeable figure is fueled by Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah tells Sam that what the shield represents can never be changed. The shield's mistreatment of him, the shield's meaning of this white, stereotypical American can never change. To Isaiah, what is evil will always be evil, and there's no point trying to change or fight it. The best thing you can do is destroy it. A sentiment also shared by Carly Morgenthau.
Leave it covered. Those stars and stripes don't mean nothing good to me.
That shield is a monument to a bygone era. A reminder of all the people history just left out. If anything, that shield should be destroyed.
But through the show, he learns and grows. When he fixes the boat, he learns he can bring people together to preserve history. Here, Sam sees what he can really do. He can bring together people. That's his superpower. But the boat was only small scale. So imagine what he could do if he was Captain America. And this is where his struggles as a human and a hero start to cross roads, where he starts to understand how much good he could do and how throwing away the responsibility and the legacy of the shield would be a waste of his potential. Through Isaiah, he learns that the shield does have a troubled legacy, but while it's troubled, it's his legacy now, and he must own that legacy, that identity, the good and the bad. He must learn to preserve his history and the history of the Shield, to stand up and fight, to fix the wrongs of the Shield, and to make that pain, that sacrifice mean something, and use it to craft a better world. So in the end, he finally learns what he has to do, what he needs to do in order to right the wrongs and rebuild, not only as a black man, not only as a hero, but as Captain America. He comes to learn how to stay true to the past, the good and the bad, all while embracing the change and hoping to improve and to change the legacy of the Shield, his legacy now. To finally prove that a black man can be Captain America without shame, but with pride. Bucky's story is the most clear-cut out of everybody's in my opinion, but it's simple but sweet. For most of his time in the MCU, Bucky has been defined by the identity of the Winter Soldier, a deadly mass murderer. But even with a new name, White Wolf, the world already knows him as the Winter Soldier. It's this struggle, this balance between Bucky Barnes and the Winter Soldier that defines his story. Does the unspeakable acts committed by the Winter Soldier define Bucky? And even if that guy isn't there anymore, how can he prove to the world he changed? But more importantly, how can he move on, knowing every day that he committed those abhorrent acts of death towards innocent people? The story shows us Bucky reeling and dealing with a life post-Winter Soldier, now free, but devoid of purpose.
You're free.
To do what?
Throughout the show, he is constantly trying to distance himself from the identity of the Winter Soldier at every turn, trying to prove that he's no longer a killing machine. He's first confronted about his identity by Isaiah, thinking him to be unredeemable.
Not a killer anymore.
You think you can wake up one day and decide who you want to be? It doesn't work like that.
And as the show goes on, Isaiah seems to be proven correct, as he falls further and further into the identity of the Winter Soldier, having to take up the mantle once again in Madripoor, blurring the lines between who the Winter Soldier is and who Bucky Barnes is even further. Having not only the audience wondering if Bucky Barnes and the Winter Soldier are really parallel beings, but Bucky himself, as he slips back into the identity of the Winter Soldier once again, a bit too easily. This idea of the Winter Soldier deep down being Bucky Barnes is pushed even further when the Dora Milaje attack, when the blatant distrust of Bucky is put on full display as he sees the safeguards enacted to stop him. We see how little others trust him, showing that while the world may have forgave Bucky Barnes, they sure as hell don't trust him. No matter what Bucky does, no matter how hard he tries to prove that he's not that guy to himself and to the world, nobody buys it. Not even himself. Throughout the show, Bucky is enforced by others that he cannot change who he is. Isaiah Bradley thinks that Bucky can never change. Zemo thinks Bucky still is and always will be the Winter Soldier. And the Dora Milaje don't even trust him enough with an arm. The entire world is against him. The only person who ever believed in him, the only person who thought he could become better was Steve. But now Steve is gone. The only part of Steve left was his legacy, his shield, handed to Sam, but now thrown away. And this idea forces Bucky to revisit his view on the world. The only thing that actually believed in him is now gone. The hope and the belief of him becoming something better with it. With the world telling Bucky that he cannot be something more, and with Sam giving away the shield, he is forced to consider a truth that he despises. And that truth is that maybe Steve was wrong. Maybe Bucky can't change. Maybe the Winter Soldier is ingrained in his very being, and maybe it is his only one and true identity. The show gives him a moment to decide if he is truly the Winter Soldier once and for all. The show gives Bucky a choice to kill once more, to bring himself to kill Zemo, and subsequently Carly. He could kill Zemo, but in doing so, he would prove Zemo right and become a character defined by death and killing. But it's here where Bucky proves that he's grown past that, to prove that Steve was right. The truth is that Bucky Barnes is no longer a man defined by killing. He is the Winter Soldier whether or not he likes it, but that doesn't have to define him. But even that's only half of his challenge. Finding a new identity is all well and good, but how can he still live with the things he's done? Him choosing not to kill Zemo prove Zemo wrong, yes, but that doesn't bring back the people that he's killed, and it sure as hell doesn't take away all that guilt. It's not until he speaks with Sam that he finds his sense of direction. The Winter Soldier's new mission now is to give reparations, to give those who need it closure. Because Bucky's story in this show isn't one about fighting the Flag Smashers, fighting society, or fighting John Walker. It's him fighting against himself, fighting against his identity. It's him coming to forge a new identity, beyond death and killing, that has defined him for a good portion of his life, and to give closure to those that he has hurt. That is his journey. That is his fight. He doesn't win by punching or kicking. He wins by making amends. He wins by simply telling his story, by giving them the truth. If there's one thing Falcon the Winter Soldier is, besides political statements about race and the world, it's identity. Each character goes through a deep and human journey about identity, each facing their own identity crisis and their own problems. Because as Stan Lee once said,
Marvel has always been and always will be a reflection of the world right outside our window.
And I think Falcon the Winter Soldier perfectly portrays that idea with human stories, relatable stories that reflect the real world, stories of identity, race, who you choose to be. John Walker, Bucky Barnes, and Sam Wilson all represent journeys that anybody can relate to and anybody can understand, showing us that we can become better, that we can define who we want to be, and that identity is more than just one thing. It's a layered, ever-shifting part of our being. If you liked it, please subscribe, comment, turn the notification on, do whatever you want. It supports the channel a ton, and I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.